There was two of them.
Probably downstairs.
There's two right here.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll probably wait another, minute or two before getting started, just to let people get a chance to get logged in and join the meeting. So just hang tight. Right, we're just waiting a couple minutes to let people have the chance to log in, and then we'll get started. I think we've reached a critical mass. Hi, everyone. I'm Casey Zorn. I am the Lead by Example project coordinator. Now with the Maine Office of Community Affairs, the Community Resilience Partnership has officially, as of yesterday, moved into the new Maine Office of Community Affairs. Woo! And thank you for joining us today. This is the first of 3 energy benchmarking trainings as part of the Energy Efficiency Planning for Rural Communities program, technical assistance program. In a minute, I'm going to hand it over to Claire from Power Options, who is going to help lead us through this first training and give us this introduction into Energy Star Portfolio Manager and energy benchmarking. Some quick housekeeping. Please just mute yourselves during the presentation so that we get a good recording of this presentation. We will be recording the presentation and we will be posting it to the Community Resilience Partnership page so that other partnership members are able to benefit from this training. You're welcome to leave your camera on or off, whatever you're comfortable with, and we will have time for some Q&A at the end. And during the presentation, if you have any questions that you don't want to, lose your train of thought on, please feel free to throw them in the chat and we'll be monitoring that throughout the presentation. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Claire to take us away. Thank you so much, Casey. I know that I've spoken to many of you, likely all of you, and apologies I can't see everyone on screen at the moment, but I'm Claire Kokoska. I'm a project manager for Power Options, the consultant team for Maine EEPRC. Erin Camp is our program director here at Power Options for the Energy Sustainability and Analytics team. And you may see that we have Eden Floyd, who's a data analyst here at Power Options as well, who does a lot with Energy Star Portfolio Manager, so is a wonderful resource for us. To get started, I just wanted to remind everyone where all of the communities are and who makes up this fantastic program. So thank you all for being here, all of you from the 14 communities. I know some of you are community liaisons, some of you are other town or city representatives. Thank you for being here. And to quickly put a little pin in the calendar for where we currently are in the program overview, we have RBG and Power Options have completed building energy audits with all of you, and we're working on compiling those into energy conservation plans for each of your community. Oh, I just got a note that you are not able to see my slides. I'm so sorry, everyone. Let me share again. Are you able to see now?
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful. Apologies for the technical difficulties, and I will just go back one more slide to show you all the wonderful communities that make up the program. So again, energy audits have been completed and we're working on compiling all of those findings into energy conservation plans for each of your communities. and we'll get feedback from you on those before delivering a final report. But you'll notice that we are squarely in the yellow blocks here. September, October, November is for Energy Star Portfolio Manager trainings. This is training number 1, and we have 2 more the following Thursdays. So today is September 25th. Our next one is October 2nd, and the last training is October 9th. So for today, we wanted to focus on the basics of energy benchmarking and Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which can sometimes be shortened to ESPM or Portfolio Manager. So you may hear me slipping into one or both. I'll try and keep it just a Portfolio Manager, since I know that's what Maine defers to. But today we're going to cover what it means to benchmark your buildings, what the purpose is, and what the different stages are to complete benchmarking, and what Energy Star Portfolio Manager is. Then we'll go into a brief overview of understanding your your energy bills, which includes electricity bills, natural gas bills, and we'll briefly cover delivered fuels. We're not going to go into as much detail on those delivered fuels bills because your communities have so many different types that it would take too long. So we're happy to help you offline with understanding those more. But we'll do a brief overview before going to our portfolio manager getting started section, where we go over how to create your portfolio manager account and different account types, and then adding properties and buildings to portfolio manager. And finally, we'll finish off today with talking about energy benchmarking in practice using portfolio manager. So how do you collect data in your community? I know that we've already done a lot of that work with you together through the Maine EEPRC program, but just continuing those efforts and developing the protocols for data collection in your community, meter and bill data entry to portfolio manager, and then a quick little introduction to data quality checker, which we'll go into more detail in a future session. So you may have heard of benchmarking, and you may not have, but the purpose of benchmarking and energy benchmarking is to understand how your building or building's performance relates to similar buildings' energy performance and performance in other metrics. It can help you understand trends in your specific building or portfolio of buildings in your community over time. Identify opportunities for energy and cost savings. It tracks energy usage, costs, and related waste associated with those things. And when I say energy usage and related metrics, I'm really talking about electricity, natural gas, water and sewer, greenhouse gas emissions. I'll keep trying to note that as we go through the slides, but that's what I am talking about when I'm talking about benchmarking your buildings. Those are the primary things that will be tracked in Portfolio Manager. The stages of benchmarking are, first of all, you have to collect your data and do some data standardization and cleanup so that it all plays nicely with each other and it's in a similar format so that you can upload it to Portfolio Manager and do proper data analysis when the time comes. So once you have that data together and cleaned up, inputting that to Portfolio Manager in this case and maintaining that input of data over time. And next step is analyzing that data that you have and coming up with being able to view trends and doing trend analysis on that data that you have. And then based on all of those findings, implementing improvements, as we said above, to bring about energy reduction, emissions reduction, and cost savings for your community. And I love this quote by Bill Hewlett. You can't manage what you can't measure. Love that. And I think about that all the time in benchmarking terms. So energy Energy Star Portfolio Manager, otherwise known as Portfolio Manager, is a free and secure online platform for building benchmarking, which is created and made available by the EPA. So it it's a really widely used tool, the most widely used benchmarking tool in the US, and it's also used in Canada and other countries. So it is the creme de la creme of building benchmarking. And again, what does Portfolio Manager benchmark? It benchmarks energy, meaning electricity, natural gas, delivered fuels. It can also track water and sewer and greenhouse gas emissions. And then if you at some point would like to add on waste tracking, you can do that as well. But these are the main things to get us started. So now we're on to our understanding energy bills section. Before we got into how to get started on Portfolio Manager, I wanted to just back up because energy bills are kind of complex and there's a lot of components and different types of charges. So I wanted to discuss each one of those elements first so that you feel like you have a good understanding of what each different energy bill is comprised of and what the different charges mean. For electricity bills, those typically come monthly from your utility, and the primary components of those electricity bills are delivery charges, supply charges, demand charges, and net metering credits. I'll go into the definitions in just a moment. Natural gas bills are also typically coming in on a monthly basis and are usually comprised of delivery and supply. Delivered fuels bills are usually monthly or coming in whenever you have a new delivery date of those fuels. And they typically have supply as their main component. So what does that mean when I say components and different types of charges? The delivery charge is sometimes a collection of different smaller charges that all amount to the dollars charged to your community on that meter to deliver the energy to you, and also goes towards infrastructure upgrades. And that's usually determined by federal policy, state utility incentives. But that is what the delivery charge is for. And the supply charge is what you would typically think of when you think of a charge from your utility, because the supply charge is just the charge for the electrons of electricity, the natural gas, or the delivered fuels themselves. And the demand charge is a specific charge to electricity bills, which can be a little sticky to get your arms around, but essentially the demand charges are tied to the intensity of that electric meter's usage, especially during times of peak electricity use, when the overall electricity grid is strained from everyone trying to use electricity. There's a bit of a complicated way that demand charge is determined, but essentially if your building uses a lot of electricity, especially at certain times of the day or the year, those demand charges can be a little bit higher. And then there's various other charges that you may see as line items on your bills for federal, state utility programs and other fees. So again, as I noted, we're not going to get into the delivered fuels bills quite as much here, but we'll take a brief look at electricity bills. Other components of your electricity bill are usage. So how many kilowatt hours did that meter use during that given billing period, typically in the last month? The billing period, again, the start and end time of that current period that the utility is billing you for. And then net metering credits, which some of you may or may not have seen those on your community's electricity bills or your own personal utility bills at home, but net metering credits are, if you've ever heard of community solar or wind net metering credits, it essentially means you're subscribed to a wind or solar farm and you are getting credits applied to your utility electricity account, and then you pay that provider of that wind or solar farm, and in the end you get a discount. Usually it's somewhere in the 5-10% range overall, but the net metering credit shows up as a negative dollar amount on your electricity bills. I should also mention, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will get to that in our Q&A at the end. I'm not sure if we mentioned that already, but I think this is where some of the questions might start coming up. Natural gas bill components, typically usage and billing period. Then natural gas, you might see the usage as cubic feet, kBTUs, therms. And for delivered fuels, you'll typically see on your bill the usage during that given billing period, or for that specific delivery date, the billing period, and then the delivery date as well. And when we're talking about delivered fuel types, we're talking about fuel oils, which they run the gamut from number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 6. Propane, diesel, coal, wood pellets, sometimes called biomass. And then there's some other ones too, but they're a lot less common. And I don't believe any of the Maine communities had other delivered fuels aside from these ones. So these are the main ones, and we'll leave it at that for now. All right, we've gotten to the point where we can start talking about Portfolio Manager itself. And we're going to go a little bit quickly through this, but this recording and the webinar slides are meant to serve as a reference so that you can always come back to this later and see what exactly the stages of creating accounts and properties and adding meter data are. So I know that we may move quickly through these sections. You are welcome to try and follow along with it in a browser window, but I do recommend listening to this webinar first and getting a sense of how exactly you and your community want to set up your portfolio manager ecosystem with your community. So there are there's in Portfolio Manager, there's really only one account type, but you can use it in different ways. When you're creating an account, you can create an account that is sort of the official centralized portfolio manager account for your community. That's something I would recommend doing with the community liaison and any elected officials, just to make sure that you have the name correct and there's no portfolio manager account already out there for your community. And it can also be for your municipality and related school district, depending on how you'd like to set it up. And you can also create accounts for individuals as needed. So individuals would create accounts, and then the central community account would share access to the individual accounts that you would create. And individuals that would have their own accounts would include elected officials, possibly, that would want access to this information, facilities and engineers that might be inputting this or taking note of this, admins that would need to input energy data as it comes. I may have mentioned community liaisons, but you all are very important to this process. So we can get more into that later, but just remember, there's one account type that can be used in 2 different ways. So to create an account, you would go to www.energystar.gov/portfolio manager and click create account with this handy little button right here. And you can also use this link to log in once you have created your account. The interface, we've tried to show you exactly what this next page would look like, or next series of pages would look like. When you're creating an account, this is exactly how it would look if you're trying to create your community account and an individual account for yourself or specific employees. Again, for the individual accounts, it should probably be the person themselves creating the account for themselves. Now you'll have to create a username, and please know it cannot be changed. So create one that you can remember, that you like, that makes sense, and create a password. Then it'll ask for general contact information and for your organization name, and that would be the name of your community and the community's account. Then from there, primary business or service of your organization, it'll give you a lot of different options and oh, sorry, I thought I heard a question. For searchability, that will ask you if you want to be able to be searched by your username that you create. I would check yes, so that the community account can find your contact, and you can, it makes it much easier to share data with the community, from the community and to the community. Confirm your humanity, check that you're not a robot. I think we've all done that. So I'm very confident that you can get through that step, and then create your account. And your account is then created, and we get to move on to the create a property step. Once you create the account, you will add a property. I'd probably recommend to start adding properties from the centralized community account, just to make it a little bit easier for now. And it's important to know that portfolio managers, the portfolio manager system, when they say property, it's not necessarily synonymous with building. So a property can be a building. It can also be a definitive separate section of a building. So if there's a separate tenant space or something that is kind of separate and distinct from the rest of the building, you can add that as its own property, even though it's technically part of the building. And properties can also be a collection of buildings that you'd want them to all be related. So those are called campus building organization structures. But the most important thing to know right now is that property does not necessarily mean building, but building can mean property. And to add a property, you would log in. This is your home page when you're starting out, and your My Portfolio section should be clicked already automatically without you having to do anything. Then you click Add a Property. You can click Add a Property here or set up your first property. Either one will do. And that will take you to this next page here, where you input some very basic information about your property that you're trying to input. So the property type, since you're a community, that would either be under public services or education. There are several different property types under the public services category and the education category. For public services, that includes categories like courthouse, community center, police station, library, other municipal building types like that. And then education, I think the only relevant one would be K through 12 schools that you could select for education, but just know that's what it's asking for in the property type. For the section just below it, in Organize Your Properties, it will ask how many physical buildings do you consider a part of this property? If you select none, it means that you're entering a property that is more like one of those tenant spaces or a distinct section within a building. So that's where you'd click none. But I think the most relevant two for you all, well, the one option here is probably the most relevant for you all. So this is just a single building that you're putting in, one and done. One building is one property in this case. And the more than one is when you want to enter multiple buildings under a campus structure where you have a parent building and then a number of child buildings that are related to it. And you can change the organization as needed after you create the property types. And the construction status section is pretty self-explanatory. You're probably mostly going to be putting existing. That means the building, the properties are already constructed and fully built. The design project means it's in concept, so it's in the pre-construction phase. I don't think you're really going to be adding anything like that for now, but it's there if you need it. And then if you ever wanted to just test out how to add properties and, you know, do some experimenting, you can click test property and add either a real building with fake information or just a completely fake sample building just to get some practice. Up next, it'll ask you a little bit about your property itself, and these include a lot of required fields. So the name of the building, the name of the property, address, municipality, the year it was built, and the gross floor area. So yeah, in gross floor area, you don't include parking, and it's more the occupiable primary floor space. And the building and facilities team should have that figure available. There may be some property types that ask for irrigated area as a required field, I believe. If that does come up and it has a red star next to it saying that it's required, you can just know that the irrigated area is the area of the property that would require water irrigation or have any kind of landscaping that's watered or has irrigation needs. That's done in square feet. And then the occupancy percentage of the building, and you can add a photo of the property if you'd like to. The screen grab on the right is just a part of the same page, but I just couldn't fit it all in one vertical. This standard ID section is most relevant if you have building compliance regulation or reporting requirements. As of right now, I don't think any of you do, so you can skip this part, and it's not a requirement to add a property. Next up is, oops, sorry about that. We could do the song and dance again, but let's go to the next one. Entering a building. When you've entered your property, after you add a property, you can click to add a new building. And when you're entering a building, you want to have the building name ready, the property type, construction status, gross floor area, occupancy, space type, year built. And then for benchmarking purposes, you're also going to need 12 plus months of energy usage. That's something that we either have or are working with you all on for the Maine EEPRC program. But all other points should be relatively easy to get from your communities building or maintenance or engineering teams. And if not them, then I'm sure the central office would have this information too. And you can also add another building right after you add this information for the first one if you'd like. Something that makes Energy Star Portfolio Manager very important is that it really simplifies the process of coming up with energy use intensity. And your building's energy use intensity is a universal metric that's used to gauge the energy performance per square foot per year of your building. So it's an amazing, simple number that can do a lot. You can, once you have your first EUI, which is a part of benchmarking, you can then gauge going forward as you add more data. How does your EUI of buildings change over time? And that can help you really understand how efficient or inefficient your building is in terms of energy use, water use, um, in putting out greenhouse gas emissions. So EUI is really the golden number in energy benchmarking, and Energy Star Portfolio Manager makes that so much easier to come up with and track. And it not only helps you understand your own building's energy performance over time and efficiency, but it helps you be able to compare very easily your building to buildings of similar use in similar um, climates as well. So it helps compare your buildings in an apples to apples way with other buildings, which is wonderful for helping see where your community's buildings are at in terms of energy efficiency. Um, Another thing that can be done with EUI is there's standard site EUI, and then if the year's data that you're looking at had really abnormal weather, maybe it was extremely cold or hot or rainy and your solar panels weren't generating as much power, or any number of things. If the weather was abnormal, weather normalized EUI is a calculation that can estimate what your EUI would be under normal weather conditions. So helping smooth out those outliers that weather can generate in the figures. And Portfolio Manager is wonderful at helping you standardize your energy use metrics. So with natural gas, those will sometimes, the figures of usage will be given to you by, let's say, cubic feet or kBTUs, and then electricity is given to you on your electricity bills in kilowatt hours usually. So Portfolio Manager can help automatically translate all of those various energy usage units into one unit. Usually kBTUs, sometimes gigajoules, which is a billion joules, and that all goes into your EUI calculation. So wanted to just put this chart here as a handy little reference if you're ever curious. But that factors in very heavily to coming up with your EUI score, which will be very important to your community going forward as you benchmark. Community building data collection. Just wanted to share as a reminder, if you're looking back at these slides, the metrics required by Portfolio Manager include the following building details here and energy from 12 consecutive months of all energy used or generated by all accounts and meters of the building you're benchmarking for. So for benchmarking purposes, these points on the left-hand side of the screen is what you'll need to complete building benchmarking. And again, through the Maine EEPRC program, we're already collecting all that with you. But if you want to expand on the building data you will have for those buildings in Portfolio Manager, or you want to add other buildings to Portfolio Manager, this is a handy guide. And on the right-hand side, I'm not going to read through all of this, but it's very helpful for you as a community liaison or a member of your community who's here today to identify and document where building information and energy bills are stored, who has access to it, what format is it, and it's always best to have a central office or a couple of people that know where all that information is, have it kept on a central and secure digital workspace, and have those items available digitally, and scan them in if you can. Another handy tip is that if there are missing energy or water and sewer bills that you're looking for, or you have a whole lot of those bills that are in physical form and you need them in digital form, your utilities or your energy or water and sewer providers are excellent resources for this. You can create an online portal for them in many cases and get that information directly from their website. Their website portal once you create a community account. The other thing you can do that may be easier for some of you is just call or email the utility. Their customer support team will be able to help you and get you 12 to 24 months of usage and cost information, or invoices for the given period you need. And they can send that right to your email, making it so much easier to store this information in a usable way and help input it to Portfolio Manager. And if you do call your utility, just know they may ask for your community's EIN and for the relevant account numbers and addresses. Next up is meter and bill data entry. There's a couple of different ways that you can add meter and bill data to specific buildings and properties. Once the properties and buildings are created, you can enter meter and bill data manually. You can upload in bulk via a spreadsheet template. And there's also the option of web services, which for your communities would involve hiring an organization to upload the data. I guess in a way, this program is sort of a pseudo. We can be a pseudo web services for the two buildings and help you with uploading data from your two community buildings for the program. But otherwise, you could hire an outside firm. And I also want to note some states, utilities make it very easy to automatically send data right to Portfolio Manager from the utility. Maine is not one of those states, hopefully someday soon, not today. So that means that manual entry or spreadsheet entry would be the best routes to go. For manual entry, you would, on the homepage, there's an energy, water and waste and materials tab. You just click add meter, add the relevant meter data as it's shown in the columns here. And I have them listed here in bullet points, and then you can add the bill data as well by clicking add bill. And another thing to keep in mind is that when you're inputting meter data, you name the meter itself. And our team has found it useful to call it something like whatever the utility account number is, underscore, and then the meter number. You can do it in different ways, but that's one way that we use it. You can also include your community name or the building name or utility name if you want, but it's very flexible and up to you. For spreadsheet entry, it's just a little bit quicker than manual entry. Portfolio Manager has a number of different templates you can use to put in that meter and bill and cost data. So you can, for example, here on the homepage under my portfolio, on the left-hand side, there's this option to upload and update multiple properties. And that gives you the option to upload a template with data from multiple properties for their meter and bill data. You can do that. And the spreadsheet is available via this hyperlink, or you could create your own custom template. And we're going to be talking more about templates in a future session. There is this data quality checker tool is also going to be something that is very helpful. It is a tool that lets you in Portfolio Manager run a really basic set of checks to see if you're missing any data or if there's potential data entry errors. And it's accessible in the summary tab of your Portfolio Manager homepage dashboard. So we'll go more into this in a future session, but we just want to flag that there is this option and it's a great tool to use. And it allows you to run data from any 12-month time period to check for possible errors in a couple different metrics. So we made it through a lot. I'm actually surprised. That was a lot of material. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. Before we get to wrapping up, I just want to let you know what we're going to be covering in future training sessions. Next Thursday, October 2nd, we are going to talk about sharing this community data across various contacts and to different individuals from your community account, and how to manage those access permissions and set up those access permissions so the right people have access to the right information at the right level, because you can have read-only access, edit access, things like that. We'll cover single property dashboards and multi-building dashboards so that you have really helpful different views for seeing various energy usage data points, metrics, trends, greenhouse gas emission data too. We'll talk a little bit about how you can use the various templates Portfolio Manager has to make your life easier in energy benchmarking through Portfolio Manager, and to help with uploading information as well. And then finally, the exciting part of this session is talking about reports. You can create custom report templates and custom reports in Portfolio Manager, and those are really wonderful ways to standardize the data that you pull on a regular basis, and to help you start figuring out how you're going to track this, how and what you're going to track over time. The last training session is October 9th, 2 Thursdays from now, and it's going to cover Portfolio Manager maintenance best practices and troubleshooting. So data maintenance and best practices, then how do you set energy targets, common error messages, troubleshooting, and we will close out our third and final Portfolio Manager training session. And I hope that you can reach out to us at any time. I did want to give a little bit of homework to the community liaisons for the next week. If you're able to, I challenge you to get your feet wet in Portfolio Manager by working with the folks in your community that you've been working with through the Maine EEPRC program to come up to create a community account. Again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any trouble doing this, or you want to set up a brief call to help with this, but fully encourage you to try it. And I would create an account for yourself. That's something that you can do, just you. And then after next week, when we talk about data sharing, it'll become clear how you can actually gain access to the community account from there. And if you're feeling really spicy, you can add your community's Maine EEPRC buildings to the community Portfolio Manager account. Again, our team can help with that, but if you are feeling like you want to get started and you want to experiment and try adding them yourself, feel free to, and we can, I think that's a great great next set of steps if you have some time in the next week. I really want to thank you all so much for your time today. I know this was a lot of ground to cover. It takes some time to get used to the interface, but this tool is going to be so crucial and helpful to all of your communities in setting your communities, benchmarking current state and helping you figure out the next best steps forward and coming up with a strategy for your energy management and climate management plans. So thank you very much. We are going to open up to questions now. And if you have any questions after the fact, you're welcome to contact the entire program team at Maine EEPRC at poweroptions.org. So with that, I will open up the floor to questions. I'm just going to look at the
You're sharing
chat.
your whole screen right now, Claire. You might just want to share.
Thank you, Casey.
No problem. I see Julie's raising her hand.
Yes, Julie, go right ahead. And then while Julie is coming off mute, I see Aaron's question. Can you share the slides? I know Casey answered, but yes, we'll be sharing the slides and the recording.
Great, thanks. So my question is, even if we're only tracking 2 buildings right now, does it make sense to set up the account sort of for all of our community buildings so the structure is there and we can start entering others over time?
Eden, I wonder if you would like to take that question since you have so much experience doing this. I'm happy to take it, but if you want to go for it, Eden.
Yeah, no worries. Just to clarify, are you asking if you should set up the buildings that aren't being tracked yet for the future? You can, either way works. You can add buildings as you go. It's the same process. Or if you want to be a little more proactive, you can add them and not add in the energy meters until you're ready. So either way would work.
Yeah, it's definitely, Julie, it's just community preference. If you find it helpful to be able to see all the buildings you guys have, on the
Well, I
dashboard.
thought that might make it clearer to people what's included and what's not included by outlining ones with blank data that, yes, we're definitely not including, the fire station in these town office things that you're seeing. So seeing that structure might help people down the road, knowing very specifically what we have by seeing what we're not entering data on yet.
Yeah, I can see how that could be a benefit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're welcome to do that. And you could do you'll hear when in the future sessions about reporting about how you can do single building reports, and you just won't be able to do reports, obviously, for buildings that don't have any data.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for your question. And Julie, I saw you were the first one to put a question in the chat about peak or off peak. And I think that was when we were talking about what demand charges are.
Yes.
So yes, demand charges are, they relate to the amount of energy demand that your building has during peak times. And typically, the amount that is charged based on your demand is set by a specific day, usually in June, when there is going to be a peak demand event, meaning the grid is going to the utilities know that there's a day coming. It's going to be really hot. Everyone's going to be running their AC and using a lot of electrical devices, and so the peak demand for electricity is going to be very, very high that day, probably the highest of the year. And when those times come, they look at how much electricity your specific building used during those times. And that is kind of what determines your demand charges for the following year. There might be some changes to the way that's structured. I hope that didn't get too much into the weeds, but
No, that was interesting. Thank you. I thought it was much more standardized than that. That's interesting. They use such a small moment.
Yeah. So if you know that there is one of these peak demand periods coming, usually your electric utility, if you're on a commercial account, they can sometimes sign you up for notifications of when a peak demand event is coming, and you would get a few hours notice. Sometimes buildings just can't change their energy usage because they're at full capacity and they can't allow their occupants to sit in 90-degree heat. But sometimes there are changes that can be made, and that can affect your future electricity rates or demand charges. Are there any other questions about portfolio manager or setting it up in the meantime, or even any questions on the potential homework or how you can use portfolio manager?
At the risk of boring everybody else on the call, I'm Roddy. I'm new at City of Ellsworth as the Parks, Rec, and Facilities Manager, and I'm kind of stepping into this process that's already been begun by my predecessor. So I would love at some point to maybe jump on a call where we don't have to bother everybody else. So you guys can fill me in on what I've missed, because I realize I'm coming into this kind of mid-process. So
perfect. I'll make a note and we'll set up a time to chat. Nice to meet you, Roddy.
great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, oh, Julie, did you have something else? I saw your screen light up.
Yes, I'm typing. Sorry, I was just going to put in. Will we talk next time about how to tell if accounts already exist to make sure we're not duplicating something?
Yeah, that's a really important piece of it. And that's something that will be covered in, let's see, the third session for common error messages and troubleshooting and best practices for data maintenance to make sure that it's being input the right way. Because you're right that it does happen. And Eden, if there's anything you want to say for the moment, any words of wisdom on how to avoid some of those snags? Oh, you're muted.
I was just saying nothing at the moment. I think you got it.
All right. But yeah, so we'll cover that in last session.
Great.
Right. Well, I don't see any other questions or hands, so I will let you all enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your participation in the program, and please feel free to reach out to us anytime. I know I keep saying that, but really and truly, we're here to help you in any of this setup you need help with, or answer your questions, or just be here as a resource to help figure out what can we use this tool for. So thank you and have a great afternoon.